Welcome to the English Matura with JB podcast. You know what's fascinating about suffering? Most of us spend our lives trying to avoid it, right? But this ancient story about a man named Joseph, well, it suggests something totally counterintuitive, that maybe our biggest problems, our worst setbacks, are actually preparing us for our most important breakthroughs.
All right, so here's our game plan for this explainer. We're going to walk through Joseph's life in 4 main parts. First, we'll see how he goes from being the favorite son to being betrayed. Then, we'll look at how he starts to rise up, even in the middle of all that adversity. After that, the huge jump from prisoner to prime minister. And finally, we'll unpack the big lessons about purpose, power, and forgiveness.
So let's dive right in. Our story starts with Joseph as a teenager. And, on the surface, it looks like he's got it made. But as we're about to see, being the favorite kid in the family created a really dangerous and tense situation.
Okay, so picture this. Joseph is just 17 years old, and he is, without a doubt, his father Jacob's favorite. Jacob doesn't even try to hide it. He gives Joseph this incredible gift, a special robe or tunic with all these amazing colors. Now, what's so important here is what this coat represents. To Joseph, it's a symbol of love, but to his 10 older brothers, it's like a big, flashy sign that they're second best, and it just fuels this deep hatred and jealousy.
And if that fancy coat wasn't enough to cause trouble, Joseph starts having these 2 very vivid dreams. And maybe not so wisely, he decides to tell his brothers all about them. In the first one, he sees their bundles of grain bowing down to his bundle. In the second, he sees the sun, the moon, and 11 stars all bowing down to him. To his brothers, this is the last straw. It sounds like he's arrogantly predicting he's going to rule over them, and their anger just boils over.
And this is where that jealousy turns into something truly terrifying. One day, out in the fields, the brothers see their chance. Their first thought is just brutal. Let's kill him. But the oldest brother, Reuben, steps in. He says, hey, let's just throw him into this empty well, because he was secretly planning to come back and rescue him. But before he gets the chance, another brother, Judah, has a different idea. Why don't we sell him? And just like that, for 20 pieces of silver, they sell their own brother into slavery. His life is changed forever as he's dragged off to Egypt.
So, this betrayal kicks off an incredibly long and difficult period in Joseph's life. But what's really remarkable is that even in the absolute worst situations, this pattern starts to emerge, a pattern that shows his incredible character.
And I want this number to really sink in for a second. 13 years. We're not talking about a bad week or a tough month here. Joseph spends 13 years of his life, from 17 all the way to 30, as a slave or a prisoner. Think about that. The prime of his young adult life completely stolen by injustice.
This timeline really puts it all into perspective, doesn't it? At 17, he's sold by his family. For more than 10 years, he serves in the house of an Egyptian official named Potiphar until he's wrongfully thrown into prison. And then he just sits there, languishing in a dungeon for years, totally forgotten by a guy he helped who promised to remember him. It's not until he's 30 years old that he finally catches a break.
Okay, so here's that pattern I was talking about. It's almost like a weird reverse karma thing. The more integrity he shows, the more he does the right, honest thing, the worse his immediate situation gets. But look what happens. In Potiphar's house, he's so trustworthy that he's put in charge of everything. And then in prison, he's so reliable and skilled that the warden puts him in charge of all the other prisoners. Even in the worst places you can imagine, his leadership skills just can't be hidden.
And you might be asking, why did he end up in prison in the first place? Well, it's because he did the right thing again. Potiphar's wife tried to seduce him, and he completely refused her. So as revenge, she lied and accused him of attacking her. His reward for being loyal and having integrity? He gets thrown in a dungeon. Just another huge setback for doing the right thing.
And this right here leads us to the most incredible reversal of fortune in the entire story. After 13 long years of nothing but hardship, Joseph's life is about to change in a matter of hours.
I mean, it's a wild question, isn't it? His rise to power is so fast it's almost hard to believe. It's like going from solitary confinement to the White House overnight. How does something like that even happen?
Well, it all circles back to dreams. But this time they're not Joseph's dreams. They belong to Pharaoh, the ruler of all Egypt. He has these 2 bizarre dreams, 7 healthy cows getting eaten by 7 sickly ones, and 7 good ears of grain swallowed by 7 withered ones. Nobody in his court can figure it out. Then finally, that cupbearer from prison remembers Joseph. So they pull Joseph out of the dungeon, and he explains it perfectly. It means 7 years of incredible harvests are coming, followed by 7 years of a devastating famine. But he doesn't just stop there. He gives Pharaoh a plan. And Pharaoh is so blown away by his wisdom, he basically says, well, who better to run this plan than you? So, what's so cool here is that Joseph basically creates the world's first known strategic grain reserve. This is a brilliant economic strategy. By saving up 20% of the food during the good times, he builds a system that's going to save not just Egypt, but the entire region from starvation. You see, all those years learning to manage a household and then a prison, they gave him the exact skills he needed for this massive job.
And this brings us to the final act of the story, where all the different threads of Joseph's life finally come together. The famine he predicted is here, and it's about to set the stage for one of the most intense family reunions in history. Just as he said, the famine is severe. It's so bad that people are starving all over the region, including Joseph's own family back home. And guess what? The only place with food is Egypt. So his brothers make the long, desperate journey, completely clueless that the powerful Egyptian governor they have to beg for food from is the very brother they sold into slavery decades ago.
Can you just imagine the tension in this moment? His brothers are literally bowing down to him, just like in his dream from all those years ago. They have no idea it's him. He has absolute, total power over them. He could have them executed, thrown in prison, made into slaves, whatever he wanted. But instead of revenge, he does something incredibly intelligent. He puts them through this elaborate series of tests to find out if they've actually changed or if they're still the same cruel, selfish men who betrayed him.
And after he sees that they really have changed, he finally reveals who he is. And this line he says to them, this is the heart of the entire story. He says, "You meant evil against me, but God meant it for good." This is his profound realization. He's not saying what they did was okay, not at all. But he can now see a bigger, positive purpose behind all of his pain.
And this table really lays out that incredible shift in his mindset. What his brothers intended for evil, he now sees resulted in good, the preservation of so many lives. Instead of being stuck on the personal harm they caused him, he sees this much broader purpose. And that perspective is what allows him to move from a place of completely justified anger to a place of genuine forgiveness.
So the ultimate takeaway is that the suffering wasn't random. It wasn't meaningless. Those 13 years he spent as a slave and a prisoner weren't just wasted time. They were his training ground. They forged in him the skills, the humility, and the moral character he needed to handle immense power, not for revenge, but for the good of everyone. And that leaves us with this powerful question for our own lives. This story really challenges our natural desire for life to be easy and quick. It suggests that maybe, just maybe, our longest delays and our most painful struggles are actually preparing us for something important down the road that we just can't see yet. What if our setbacks are actually our setups? That's definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining me.